Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for coming to Take Back the Night 2018. I'm Adam.
And I'm Ariane.
I hope you're all able to check out the resource fair. There were a ton of organizations over there from the campus and from the Terre Haute community that offer a multitude of services and programs for ISU students.
All of these resources are also very easily accessible. If you want to take another look at them, they should all have cards left on the tables in the resource fair, so you can check that out as you head out to the march. You can also check out the t-shirts we have for sale. All of the proceeds from that will go to CODA of Terre Haute, and that is the Council on Domestic Abuse. They seek to end domestic violence and sexual assault through societal change and empowerment of abused individuals and their minor children.
What a great cause, and what an even better turnout. So go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause for your show here tonight. So since 1975, Take Back the Night events have been held across the nation on college and university campuses just like this one. The main mission of Take Back the Night is to ultimately end sexual and domestic violence of all forms by raising awareness and empowering survivors.
One of the first Take Back the Night marches was held in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in protest of a young woman who was murdered on her walk home from work at night. Since then, the movement has spread across the United States and helped raise national awareness to the issues of sexual, domestic, and gender violence. Unfortunately, all of these issues are still a major problem in our society.
However, by being here tonight, you are not simply continuing the legacy of Take Back the Night. Rather, your attendance tonight illustrates your commitment to stand in solidarity with survivors of sexual, domestic, or gender-based violence and help put an end to these heinous acts.
But how do we stop domestic violence?
We have to learn the act of respect. It seems simple, but many people still struggle with it today. When we respect one another, we can stand with survivors and make it known that domestic and sexual violence are not tolerated.
There are 3 simple ways to go about this. First, respect privacy, physically and emotionally. Second, respect others' rights to make choices. And third, treat others with dignity.
It can be difficult for some people to listen to other points of view if they don't agree with them, but it's something that we all must do. It's a skill that we use every day in every aspect of our lives, so why would it change in a situation like this? Displaying that someone has worth will do nothing but heighten your own worth. Essentially, if you give respect, you will gain it.
If you witness an incident of violence, reporting helps. If you look up at the screen, we'll walk you through the steps to file a report.
So what you'll do is you'll type in Title IX, Indiana State University into your search bar. You can see it pops up right there. The first hit will be Title IX and Equal Opportunity at ISU. So go ahead and click on that link, scroll down, and complaint process will be on the right-hand side. You'll select that, and then the complaint form is hyperlinked in the middle of the page. Select that, and you will fill out this form. You can give them the date, the nature, and the location of the incident, as well as people who were involved. So you can select those right there, you can see, and then you can also give your affiliation with the university and the type of act that occurred, and then you'll scroll down to the bottom and select your role, so whether you're a complainant, respondent, or a witness. You can have a copy emailed to you, and then you will submit it, and it is that easy.
We also have a victim advocate on campus that runs 24 hours. They can be reached at 812-243-7272. Victim advocates are completely confidential and can help a survivor understand their resources and the options they have in the aftermath of violence.
We also have a few stories to share tonight from survivors. These stories of sexual, domestic, and gender violence play an important role in combating these very issues. By allowing these stories to be heard, it does not simply empower the individual whose story is being told, but it also helps raise awareness to the trauma that sexual, domestic, and gender-based violence bring with it.
By raising awareness, these stories can help other survivors realize they are not alone or that their experience is not uncommon. To keep them anonymous, we are having people come up to read their stories for them. Let's welcome to the stage now our first reader.
April 7th, 2016 is the night my life changed. I did not know it at the time, but this is the night in which I would have to say goodbye to the girl I once knew. It was on my senior year spring break with my best friend. There was a group of guys from my hometown in the same place for vacation as us, and one of the guys asked my friend if me and her would want to hang out. We said yes. As it was time to start getting ready to hang out with them, my friend was taking a shower, doing her hair and her makeup, etc. I was not in the mood to get all cute, so I just put on yoga pants and a t-shirt and started drinking as my friend got ready. She noticed I was not getting ready at all. I told her, no, I do not want to hook up with him or anything, so I'm just going to wear this. I continued to drink for a while my friend finished getting ready. I would say I had anywhere between 5 or 6 shots at this point. I hear a knock on my door and I go to answer it. It's the boys. Let's call them Chase and Tyler. I offered Tyler and Chase a drink. Tyler said yes, but Chase said, I can't drink tonight because I have to drive. He was completely sober. Chase suggested we go to the beach. We all agreed and started walking there. At this point, I had consumed around 8 shots. We get down to the beach and my friend and Tyler go somewhere down the beach. They were about 250 feet away from us. Chase then lays a towel down on the sand. We talked for another minute or two and then I joked with him, saying, Tyler is definitely going to try and make a move on my friend. He looked at me and said, I'm going to make moves too. And I initially said, that's okay with me. I remember being in a lot of pain. I couldn't sleep on my stomach for a week after because of how painful and bruised I was. I looked at him and I said, I don't think I want to have sex. He looked at me and said, it'll be fun. I repeated again, I don't think I want to have sex. Can we just do other stuff? He said, come on, it'll be fun. I said a third time, I don't think I want to have sex. I froze, I panicked. I did not know what to do because I did not want to have sex with this boy, but he wasn't listening to me. I was scared that no matter what I said, he was going to take it regardless, so I asked if he had a condom. He said yes, he put the condom on, and then was just inside of me. I don't exactly know what happened while he was having sex with me, but I repressed those memories out of my brain. But from what I can remember, I was laying on the beach for about 10 minutes while he had sex with me. I didn't really move, I didn't really say anything, but from what I can remember, I just laid there. I don't really remember getting back from the beach to my condo, but he ended up leaving with his friend. I was hammered and he was completely sober. He unfollowed me on all social media immediately after, and I have not spoken to this boy since, except for in court. He knew he was wrong for what he did. He knew it was inappropriate, yet he did it anyways. I remember feeling such shame for the longest time. I would get angry at people for no reason. I would skip school, I would take showers as hot as they could go, and I would scrub my skin raw, but I never felt clean. I had to say goodbye to a girl who was once so happy and so carefree. I had to say goodbye to a girl who loved herself. For months after the incident, I hated myself. I couldn't stand to look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't tell my parents. The only people who knew were my best friends and my therapist. The incident happened near the end of the school year, so I was hoping I could come to terms with the situation before it was time for me to go into my freshman year of college. I was wrong. In fact, things got worse. I was forced to tell my mom in early July when dorm assignments came out, because something got retweeted onto my Twitter timeline that Chase would be living in my dorm building. I was screaming and sobbing hysterically. My mom didn't know what was going on, so I finally told her. I tried to get him moved out of my dorm, but the school told me they could not do anything about it because he did not rape me on Indiana University campus. I had to live in the same building as my rapist for a whole year. Freshman year was a battle. I would see him in the dining halls, I would see him in the dorm, I would see him on campus. I felt like no matter where I went, he would be there too. I felt so helpless, scared, and angry. I didn't know how to get closure or come to terms with the situation when he was living under the same roof as me. I saw a therapist on campus, and I tried to support him, but he was making me feel less angry. I decided to report in February of 2017. I had to report through the state of Florida since that is where the incident occurred. I was filling out paperwork and taking calls from police officers on and off for about a month and a half when I finally got the email that they would have to drop my case because Chase and his lawyer decided he would not give a statement. I had no physical evidence and no witnesses. I spiraled again. I was enraged and I wanted him to feel the hurt he made me feel. I started to get extremely depressed. I thought about taking my own life so many times. I did not understand how he could violate me and get away with it. How he gets to be fine and have a girlfriend and be happy when his actions literally destroyed me. For the rest of the semester, I tried to keep busy, and I would avoid him when I was able to. I tried for a restraining order through a local nonprofit. It came time for our court date, and he was there. He brought his parents, he brought his girlfriend, and he brought Tyler. Tyler would be testifying as a witness. I was livid. He would be testifying as a witness when he was over 250 feet down the beach at night. I was there alone. I didn't want my family there because I didn't want them to know the details of a situation that ruined me. Them knowing it all would make it too real. Court was painful. It is still painful, so for that reason, I will not share the details of what went on in court. I didn't get the restraining order. I felt so alone, so broken. The rest of that summer was filled with tears and anxiety. I needed to get back to school. I needed to be back with some structure. I was actually excited for sophomore year. It would be a fresh start. That is what I thought, at least, but it was not. Chase ended up living in the same apartment complex as me. It was yet another year where I would be living uncomfortably close proximity to the boy who violated me. I was angry at first, but this time I was done letting him get the best of me. I started seriously going to see my counselor at ISU Sexual Assault Counseling Services. It is free to students who have been sexually assaulted at IU. I also started opening up to more friends and my family about the situation. I wrote down my feelings, I acknowledged what had happened. I have had rough days, and I still have rough days. But my sophomore year was when I decided to stop letting it control me, and I meant it. I realized that I had nothing to be ashamed of. I accepted that I didn't deserve this, but it had happened, and I can't change that. It empowered me to be an advocate for victims. Don't get me wrong, when I see him now, I still get scared as hell, and it definitely sticks with me for the rest of the day. But it used to stick with me for weeks on end. I would cry alone in my dorm or my apartment, hating myself. Getting through that situation and accepting it was a process, and I don't really have a pinpoint answer on what exactly helped the most. All I can honestly say is that it honestly does get better. Talking about it helps. Getting help does not make you weak, and I promise you will get through this.
These stories can help allies and advocates gain a better understanding in order to better help victims of sexual, domestic, and gender-based violence.
Let's hear from our second reader, another person's survival story.
I still remember that day. It was raining outside and my uncle just finished celebrating his college graduation party. I still remember that day. I was wearing a khaki shirt with a white t-shirt and was walking in front of him to close the door. I still remember that day as he passed me by, then stops before putting his hands first in my behind, then on my genitals. I still remember that day as he left my 9-year-old self confused. I did not know the whys and the whats of what he had just done to me. I was too worried going back to playing Nintendo and Game Boy with my favorite cousins. Couple weeks passed by. Here he is, my uncle, a little tipsy like always, arguing with my mom about family issues. He comes outside where I was playing with a plastic chair in his hand. He sits down, then calls me with a little smirk on his lips. He said in French, "Peux-tu venir ici s'il te plaît?" Which means, "Can you get closer, please?" As I was walking to him, I saw him tapping his lap as for asking me to sit down on him. As I did, he directly put his hand underneath my blue shirt and started caressing my breast while whispering, "It's too small, it has to grow faster." He again left me confused. I remember all day thinking about these two incidents. I remember not knowing why he was doing that, why none of my other uncles or even my father ever taught me that way. I remember being weirdly turned on and freaking out about why my body was reacting as such. I remember him being the first male penis that I have seen in the age of 9. I remember him at times wanting me to make out with him and taking down my pants and playing with my genitals. I remember watching porn with him and him teaching me how to make a man and a woman reach an orgasm. My memories goes for a 4-year-long period of him molesting me. As I reached my puberty, I finally realized what was wrong with him. I realized how he had crossed boundaries and violated my being. I was mad at him for years. I couldn't stand him. Even the sound of a name similar to his was irritating to me. I blamed everybody, I blamed him, I blamed God, I blamed myself, and the list goes on. I was scared to talk to my mom about it. I was scared to say anything. I was scared that she would blame me for it. Then, I remember one day when I was 16 or 17 being at church praying for God to change my ways. I was praying so he could help me manage my anger better. Then I thought about my uncle that I had not seen in almost a year. I told God that I couldn't continue living a life of anger and anxiety. I told him that I did not know how to forgive and let go of somebody like my uncle. I asked God for peace and strength, not to be held prisoner by someone else's shortcoming. I remember a couple of months passing by after I did that prayer. Here it was again, my uncle, laughing in the kitchen with my mom, then coming to me and whispering to my ears, "I want to watch porn with you." I remember pushing him back and saying, "No, not this time, it's over." I remember seeing him a little confused and walking away. Since then, I'm grateful that the power of forgiveness had freed me from anxiety and anger. I'm grateful that I did it for myself and not for him. This is my survival story.
Stories shared by survivors can help us better understand the nature of these terrible crimes, which is essential for achieving the ultimate goal of eliminating sexual assault and violence. For anyone who has been through a similar experience, we hear you.
Let's welcome to the stage our next reader.
I was abused, I was molested, and I was raped. Saying those words aloud to myself does not give me strength or courage, but makes me cry and feel weakened. I don't remember how old I was the first time I was molested. I was molested by multiple family members, unsurprisingly from the same lineage, as abuse tends to be cyclical, and befalls those who are easily coerced and already quiet souls. The man who did it the most was fond of coercion and bribery. I often received compensation in the form of shopping trips and toys in exchange for sexual acts in silence. The other was fond of waking me up in the middle of the night with one hand over my mouth and the other already grazing my body. One of these men is dead now of natural causes, and the other has a surprising conclusion. As I got older, he found the error of his ways and repented in a way, first asking my forgiveness and then my other family members. Of course, forgiveness was not something he could ask for so easily, and I think it took the women in my family longer to forgive him than it did for me to do so. On to the taboo topic of rape, I will begin with my second rape as it is more recent, more unsuspecting, and I have not spoken of it in the better part of a year. When I went abroad for a semester, I made many friends. One man I made friends with, I spent much time doing fun things I had rarely or never had the opportunity to do in the US, especially not with my current boyfriend. The man abroad took me to exotic places to eat, foreign films, and we even climbed a few mountains together. Once my trust was all but completely blind, he took me to what I did not know was a movie viewing place with a private room. Red flags went off in my head from the moment I walked inside, and I even asked his intentions right away before we picked a movie. Just to watch a movie was all he said with a goofy grin. I sat up on the futon he had laid back in. We watched maybe 30 minutes of the movie before he asked if he could rub my shoulders, and after some protesting on my end and coercion on his, I let him. I told him not to go any further and that my clothes were staying on. I even told him no and to stop multiple times, and that what I was now feeling was inevitable progressed. What were firm guidelines soon became soft whimpers, and I became a prisoner in my own body, feeling unable to stop anything, unable to move, to cry, to scream, only able to recede into a pool of memories while I felt like I was unable to breathe, drowning in a pool of confusing thoughts, feelings, and words left broken on the ground. When he was done, he asked me a question I don't remember, and I burst into tears and ran out of the room to the nearest bathroom. I cried violently in there for what felt like hours. When I returned, this shocked boy apologized and insisted on going somewhere to talk about it. Of course, I refused at first, feeling like I did not owe him anything, but he felt he owed me some explanation, and given how wonderful our friendship had been up to this point, I allowed it. He brought me a donut at Dunkin' Donuts, and we both had a coffee. I don't remember much of the conversation besides him trying to justify his actions with bullshit about how he was certain I had been dropping hints all along, how he hadn't heard my protest, and how he was sorry. The first time I was raped was not by the man who initially molested me, or even the other man who molested me as a girl, but by a family friend I had known for only a short time. It began a secret and quiet toxic relationship that escalated from supposedly fun midnight sexual exploration to unexplained bruises on my arms, legs, and occasionally face. It led to death threats and scars where he had tried to prove how valid his threats were. This was the time in my life I do not know in great detail. And as someone who studies the brain, I know this is one way it protects me from sensory overload and consequently mental decay. I'm in therapy now and I'm terrified to tell my therapist this story because I know I have repressed memories and even details I'm 90% sure are wrong. But if my brain is preventing me from realizing the truth, then it's trying to protect me from what I can only assume is much, much worse. So here I am writing to you, an unreliable narrator who wakes up in the middle of the night crying and screaming silently. I know I have PTSD not only because of the pending diagnosis, but also because of how vivid dreams come to me sometimes. I wake up in the middle of the night shaking, wondering if the events I saw were true, considering I don't actively recall most of them. Anytime I talk about something that happened during my childhood, even the positive events that made up most of my time, I become flustered, unable to clearly even estimate my actual age of when those events occurred.
For anyone who has experienced anything similar to these stories, you are not alone.
Let's welcome to the stage our final reader.
This is the story of C.C. Moore. We met freshman year, we hung out a few times and never had a problem. Once summer came around, we talked occasionally. One night, you asked to hang out. Our hometowns weren't too far from each other, so I figured, sure, why not? At first, you came to visit me at a friend's house. That's where I was at the time, and they were okay with it. But after everyone started to go to bed, you asked if we could go back to my house. I thought nothing of it at the time. Once we got up to my room, that's when it started to take a turn. You started to kiss me. I said I didn't want to, but you insisted. You kept going farther and wouldn't stop no matter how many times I begged you to stop. You said that you wanted it and you were here, so it's fine. But it wasn't. I tried to get away, but I couldn't. You dug your hands into my hips so hard, I don't know how I didn't bruise. Afterwards, you left and pretended nothing happened. A few days after, you texted me. You even tried to ask for forgiveness. You had the audacity to say, regardless if it was ethical or not, can you forgive me? You knew what you did was wrong, and you still tried to reach out. How could you ask that? Seeing your name caused me to go into a panic attack. I was unable to breathe, but I had to hide my crying. My family didn't know what happened. They still don't. Going home gives me flashbacks so bad, I'm instantly thrown into a panic attack if I go into my old room. Next come time for the school year to start. After I said something, you made all of your friends believe you were the victim. You turned it around and made them believe you did nothing wrong. I'm the one to blame because I wanted it, right? I mean, that's what you told people. Whenever people hear your side, you claim that I wanted it, and that's why you kept going.
It takes a lot of courage to come forward with the truth, and we want you to know that we stand with you and we want to make a difference. So that's why this year we chose our theme for Take Back the Night to be Stand with Survivors.
Things like this have to stop. That's why it's an everyone problem, and it takes all of us to stop domestic violence.
So we want to say a real quick, genuine thank you to everyone for coming out tonight, showing your support for such an awesome cause. Here in a second, the lights are going to come on, and back in the back page, and Darcy and I are going to lead us on the march. So you guys can just file out by row, try to keep it as organized as possible as we leave HSU here. Thank you all again.